Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. This is Joe, the bearded historian. He'll tell you an interesting story. Be careful of his soldiers, they can be brats. This is Angel, she's an entity. She'll cause chaos and plant her hands at you. This is Sue, she likes spirits, not the alcohol. She's the reason this channel exists. This is David, he likes fire trucks. He's here occasionally. Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. We preserve his story. As you heard from Mr. David, Joe's doing a special Wayback Wednesday where we're going through today in history and saw Nascar was founded. So it went over all the other contenders because it's David's favorite sport, as you heard. But before that, I have chosen a car race. Well, a go-kart race. Just because it has numbers. So hang on, we'll see who wins today. Are you ready? Here we go. Shout out time. Here's a shout out just for you. You support me, so I support you. This shout out is for our friend. Let's see who it is today. You ready? Alright, here we go. There we go. We've got She Stole. We got Supercalifragilistic. We got Odin. Tramps. My Linda. Cheap. Rural. Jamaican. Talks. Treasure. Scott. Team Para. There's Cherry. There's Visiting. Really Haunted. Let's see. Who we mentioned? Spirit, Eddie, Turtle, Praying, Susan. Let's see. Treasure, Wit, Lower, Monica, Rooks. Lower's currently in the lead. Oh, we got some people coming from the back though. There's TNT. There's Mike Crafty. There's Richard. Paparazzi. She Stole. Oh, it's a close one. I don't know who won that one. I think it might have been Lower. Nope. Cruising is nuts. Hang on. Okay. This is Cruising is Fun Anytime. This community for people who like to cruise fashion, cruise tips, and love to connect and make the cruising community grow. I have not been cruising. I want to go cruising. Cruising is out of our price range right now, but maybe someday in the future. But I talked Joe into it. Joe and Angel have this thing about deep water, so nah, it might happen. We'll see. But it's on my bucket list. But for those of you who like cruising, like traveling, check them out. They're a fun couple. Like, share, comment. Have a good day. Let's try this again. All right, bud.
So today, Dad's doing something special for Wayback Wednesday.
There you go. Good job.
And that is the special birthday of my favorite sport, NASCAR.
There we go. No, it doesn't. Just a blurry image. There we go.
I've been loving this sport since 2017.
Probably before that, too.
I didn't really know much about this sport until Dad has been told me about the NASCAR driver. Bill Elliott has been breaking the speed records of way back in the day of the Gen 4 era before restriction plates were added, which may help the cars reduce speeds down just a bit to make the cars much safer in the future.
Right.
It also includes the roof flaps to keep the cars on the ground.
Right.
So this week, back Wednesday, should be free special for you guys to get interested of who really loves NASCAR as much as I do.
Sounds good. Good?
Happy birthday, NASCAR!
That's what I wanted. Okay. Oh, something, Mr. Bud.
Well, today is, surprisingly enough, the 76th anniversary of the founding of NASCAR. You know, the wonderful sport where people get to drive around and make a left turn and make a left turn, over and over, make a right turn, thinking where they're going. But the origins, interestingly enough, date back even further to the 1920s and 30s. That Daytona Beach basically supplanted places like France and Belgium as preferred locations for land speed records, and after a historic race between Ransom Olds and Alexander Winton in 1903, 15 records were set on what became the Daytona Beach Road Course between 1905 and 1935. Now, Daytona Beach had become synonymous with fast cars in 1936. Drivers would race on a 4.1-mile course consisting of 1.5 to 2.0 mile stretches of beach as one straightaway, and then a narrow blacktop beachfront highway, State Road A1A, as the other. The two straights were connected by two tight, deeply rutted and sand-covered turns at each end. Sound like South Dakota. Mm-hmm. Now, stock car racing in the United States, as a lot of people would venture to know of, had its origin in bootlegging during Prohibition. When drivers ran bootleg whiskey, primarily in the Appalachian region of the United States, bootleggers needed to distribute their illicit products and had typically used small, fast vehicles to better evade the police. Many of the drivers would modify their cars for speed and handling, as well as increased cargo capacity. Now, the repeal of Prohibition in 1933 dried up some of the business, but the people then in the American South had developed a taste for moonshine, and the number of drivers continued run and shine, and time evading the revenuers who were attempting to tax this operation. Now, the cars continued to improve, and by the late 1940s, races featuring these cars were being run for pride and profit. Now, these races were popular entertainment in the rural southern United States, and they were most closely associated with the Wilkes County region of North Carolina. Most races in those days were of modified cars. Street vehicles were lightened and reinforced. Now, one of the first names that comes to mind is William France Sr. He moved to Daytona Beach from Washington, D.C. in 1935 to escape the Great Depression. He was familiar with the history of the area from the land speed record attempts. France entered the 1936 Daytona event, finishing fifth. He took over running the course in 1938 and promoted a few races before World War II. Now, France had the notion that people would enjoy watching stock cars race. Drivers who frequently victimized by unscrupulous promoters would leave events with all the money before drivers were paid. Well, on December the 14th, 1947, France began talks with other influential racers and promoters at the Ebony Bar of the Streamline Hotel in Daytona Beach, and that ended with the formation of NASCAR, February 21st, 1948. The first commissioner for NASCAR was a fellow by the name of Irwin Cannonball Baker. I love that name. Former stock car, motorcycle, and open-wheel racer who competed in the Indy 500 and set over 100 land speed records.
Wow.
With a name like Cannonball, I cannot imagine why. Baker earned most of his fame for his transcontinental speed runs and would prove a car's worth by driving it from New York to Los Angeles. After his death, the famous transcontinental race, the Cannonball Run, and the film that was inspired by it were both named in his honor. Baker is enshrined in the Automotive Hall of Fame, the Motorcycle Hall of Fame, and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Hall of Fame. This level of honor and success is in each diverse racing association earned Baker the title of King of the Road. In the 1950s, the United States Navy stationed Bill France Jr. at the Moffett Federal Airfield in Northern California, and his father asked him to look up Bob Barkheimer in San Jose, California. Barkheimer was the star of a midget car racing group from World War II era, and later ran about 22 different speedways with the head of the California Stock Car Racing Association. Young Bill developed a relationship with Bob and his partner, Margot Burke. He went to events with them, stayed weekends with them, and generally became very familiar with racing on the West Coast. Barkey, as he was called by his friends, journeyed to Daytona Beach and met with Bill France Sr. in the spring of 1954, and NASCAR became a stock car sanctioning body on the Pacific Coast under Barkey. Another person, Wendell Scott, was the first African American to win a race in the Grand National Series, NASCAR's highest level. He was posthumously inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte, North Carolina, January 30th, 2015. Now, the founding, on March 8th, 1936, a collection of drivers gathered at the Daytona Beach, Florida. The drivers brought coupes, hardtops, convertibles, and sports cars to compete in an event to determine the fastest cars and best drivers. Through the race, the heavier cars got bogged down in the sand, while the lightweight Fords navigated the ruts of the course, eventually claiming the top 6 finishes for the race. Of the 27 cars that started the event, only 10 managed to survive the ordeal, as officials halted the event 10 miles short of the scheduled 250-mile distance. Driver Milt Marion was declared the winner, and a young Bill France placed 5th at the end of the day. By early 1947, Bill France saw the potential for a unified series of racing competitors. France announced the foundation of the National Championship Stock Car Circuit, otherwise known as the NCSCC. Now, France approached the American Automobile Association, or the AAA, in hopes of obtaining financial backing for the venture. When AAA declined the support of his venture, France proceeded to announce a set of rules and awards for the NCSCC. France declared that the winner of the 1947 NCSCC season would receive $1,000 and a trophy. This season would begin January 1947 in Daytona Beach Track and conclude in Jacksonville the following December. Nearly 40 events were logged during the season, and attendance often exceeded the venue's capacity. The competitors were paid as promised, and by the end of the season, driver Fonty Flock was declared the season champion after winning 7 events of the 24 that he entered. Bill France delivered the $1,000 and a 4-foot-high trophy to Flock at the end of the season, along with $3,000 in prize money to other drivers who competed throughout the season.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Ow.
Oops. Now, at the end of the 47th season, Bill France announced that there would be a series of meetings held at the Streamline Hotel in Florida, beginning on December 14th, 1947. At 1 p.m., France called to order the 35 men who represented the NCSCC on the top floor of the hotel. The meeting was the first of 4 seminars in which France would outline his vision of an organized group of race car drivers. The name originally chosen for the series was National Stock Car Racing Association, when it was pointed out that the name was already in use by a rival sanctioning body. The National Association of Stock Car Auto Racing, proposed by the mechanic Red Vaught, was selected as the organization's name. NASCAR, founded by William France Sr. on February 21st, 1948, with the help of several other drivers at the time. The original plans for NASCAR included 3 distinct divisions: modified, roadster, and strictly stock. The modified roadster classes were seen as more attractive to fans. It turned out that NASCAR fans wanted nothing to do with the roadsters, which fans perceived as Northeast or Midwest series. The roadster division was quickly abandoned, while the modified division now operates as the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. The strictly stock division was put on hold as American automobile manufacturers weren't able to produce family sedans quickly enough to keep up with the post-war demand. Now, the 1948 schedule featured 52 modified dirt track races. The sanctioning body hosted the first event at Daytona Beach on February 15, 1948. Red Byron beat Marshall Teague in the modified division race. Byron won the 1948 National Championship, and things had changed dramatically by 1949, and the strictly stock division was able to debut with a 20-mile exhibition in February near Miami. Now, the first NASCAR strictly stock race ever held was held at Charlotte Speedway, although this is not the same track as the Charlotte Miller Speedway. That is a fixture on the current NASCAR schedule. The race was held on June 19, 1949, and was won by driver Jim Roper when Glenn Dunaway was disqualified after the discovery of altered rear springs. Initially, the cars were known as strictly stock division and raced with virtually no modifications on the factory models. The divisions was renamed the Grand National Division after the beginning of the 1950 season. Over a period of more than a decade, modifications for both safety and performance were allowed, and by the mid-1960s, vehicles with purpose-built race cars with a stock-appearing body. Now, early in NASCAR's history, foreign manufacturers had shown interest in entering the series. British manufacturer MG found a few of its vehicles entered with some placing. For example, on August 16, 1963, in the International 200, Smokey Cook drove an MG to a 17th place finish. The first NASCAR competition to take place outside of the U.S. happened in Canada, where on July 1st, 1952, Buddy Schumann won a 200-lap race on a half-mile dirt track at Stamford Park, Ontario, near Niagara Falls. Now, NASCAR Cup Series is pretty much the sport's highest level of professional competition. It's consequently the most popular, most profitable NASCAR series. Since 2001, the Cup Series season has consisted of 36 races over 10 months. Riders and fans often use Cup to refer to the NCS, and the ambiguous use of NASCAR as a synonym for the series is common. 2023 NCS champion is Ryan Blaney. The record for the most championships is 7, held by 3 drivers, Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, and Jimmy Johnson.
Woo.
Johnson holds the record for the most consecutive with 5 Cup Series wins from 2006 to 2010. Previously, the most consecutive championships had been 3 in a row by Cale Yarborough in the late 1970s, the only other time when a driver had won 3 or more in a row. Now, the Cup Series had its first title sponsor in 1972, R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company, which had been banned from television advertising, found a popular and demographically suitable consumer base in NASCAR fans, and engaged NASCAR as a promotional outlet. As a result of the sponsorship, the Grand National Series became known as the Winston Cup Series. Now, I remember watching Winston Cup, and I never thought once about having a smoke. Figure that one out. But, now the series, starting in 1971 with a new point system and some significant cash benefits to compete for championship points. In 1972, the season was shortened from 48 races, including 2 on dirt tracks, to 31. In 1972 is often acknowledged as the beginning of NASCAR's modern era. The next competitive level called the late model sportsman, gained the Grand National title passed down from the top division, and soon found a sponsor in Busch Beer. Now, in 2004, Nextel Communications took over sponsorship of the Premier Series and formally renamed it the Nextel Cup Series. A new championship point system, the Chase for the Nextel Cup, renamed Chase for the Sprint Cup in 2008, was also developed, which reset the point standings with 10 races to go, making only drivers in the top 10 or within 400 points of the leader eligible to win the championship. In 2007, NASCAR announced it was expanding the chase from 10 to 12 drivers, eliminating the 400-point cutoff, and giving a 10-point advantage to the top 12 drivers for each of the races that they had won out in the first 26. Wins throughout the season would be awarded 5 more points than in previous seasons, and in 2008, the Premier Series title name became the Sprint Cup Series as part of the merger between Nextel and Sprint. 2011, NASCAR announced a number of major rule changes, the most significant being abandoning of the point system. The winner of a race now receives 43 points, with 1-point decrements for each subsequent position, 42 for second, 41 for third, and so on. The winner also receives 3 bonus points, and a single bonus point are awarded to all drivers who lead a lap, plus the driver who leads the most laps. Another significant change involves the qualifying process for the chase. The number of qualifying drivers would remain at 12, but only the top 10 qualify solely on regular season points. The remaining 2 chase drivers will be the 2 drivers in the next 10 in the point standings, 11th through 20th, with the most race wins in the regular season. If anybody else is highly confused, I can understand why.
What?
2014, NASCAR announced another revamp to the chase format, expanding the chase pool to 16 drivers, eliminating 4 drivers after every 3 races, leaving 4 drivers to compete for the championship at the season finale at Homestead. In addition, wins were given an increased emphasis, with the 16 drivers with the most wins, 15 if points leader is winless. Points leader would receive an automatic berth, gaining a spot in the chase. If there are fewer than 16 winners, the remaining spots would be filled based on the conventional point system. Now, Monster Energy became the title sponsor in 2017, in which the series was named the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. With Monster Energy's title sponsorship, NASCAR abandoned the Chase name and now refers to the last 10 races simply as the playoffs, similar to other sports. And after 2019, NASCAR declined to offer Monster Energy to remain the title sponsor of the new series. And December 5th, NASCAR revealed the new sponsorship model. Instead of a single title sponsor, 4 premier partners, Coca-Cola, Xfinity, Busch Beer, and Geico, would be closely affiliated with the top series, which simply was renamed the NASCAR Cup Series. Now, the Little League, or Minor League if you want to call it that, NASCAR Xfinity Series is the second highest level of professional competition in NASCAR. A lot of drivers will compete there, and then once they catch on as far as attracting attention from sponsors, they can be pulled up to the big leagues. Last year, for example, in 2023, the most recent series champion was Cole Custer. Modern incarnation began of this in 1982, sponsored by Anheuser-Busch's brewing Budweiser brand. In 1984, it was renamed the Busch Grand National Series, and later just the Busch Series. Anheuser-Busch sponsorship expired at the end of 2007, being replaced by Nationwide Insurance. That lasted through 2014 and is now sponsored by Comcast through its Xfinity brand. The season usually has fewer races than the Cup Series, and the prize money is significantly lower. However, over the last several years, a number of Cup Series drivers have run both the Xfinity and the Cup Series events during each weekend, using the Xfinity race as the warm-up to the Cup event at the same facility. Furthermore, several drivers not only participated in both Cup and the Busch Nationwide Xfinity events of the same weekend, but also have begun to compete in both series on a full-time basis. Kevin Harvick was the first Cup Series driver to compete full-time in the Busch Series and win a title, actually doing it twice. In 2001, he did this for Richard Childress Racing, but only out of necessity, as Dale Earnhardt's death forced him into the Cup Series ahead of RCR's intended schedule for him. His win in 2006, when he raced 3 cars for RCR and his race team, was the first 5 consecutive titles in NBS/NNS that were won by Cup Series regulars. Now, this practice received criticism because it was thought to give the Cup Series teams an unfair advantage, and that their presence in a Cup Series drivers squeezes out Nationwide Series competitors who would otherwise be able to qualify. These dual drivers have been labeled Bushwhackers.
Woo!
I love that name. A play on words which combines the original series sponsor's name with the notion of being bushwhacked. In May 2007, the NS director, Joe Balash, confirmed that NASCAR was exploring options to deal with these bushwhacker controversy. One of the most often cited proposal was for Cup Series drivers participating in Nationwide Series to receive no points for their participation. NASCAR chairman Brian France indicated that all options except an outright ban of Cup competitors was still being considered. January 11, 2011, NASCAR.com reported that at the beginning of the 2011 season, drivers would be allowed to compete for the championship if only one of NASCAR's 3 national series in a given season, although they could continue to run in multiple series. This change was officially confirmed by France at a press conference less than 2 weeks later, and has remained in the NASCAR rules ever since. Beginning in 2010, the nationwide cars adapted somewhat to the current Car of Tomorrow, or COT, design used by the Cup cars with different bodies for the Cup Series. In 2016, the chase format was extended to both the Xfinity and Truck Series. Instead of the 4-round 10-race format used in the Cups, the chase in each of the 2 supporting series consists of 3 rounds and 7 races in all, with each preliminary round consisting of 3 races. The Xfinity Series chase involved 12 drivers instead of the 16 participating in the Cup Series chase. 4 drivers are eliminated at the end of each of the preliminary rounds of the chase for the Xfinity Series, which also mirrors the Cup Series. This means that the 4 drivers are eligible for the Cup Series title entering the final race, and as the Cup Series, the Chase moniker was dropped, and the final 7 races now referred to as the Xfinity Playoffs. Now, even with restrictions limiting points earnings to 1 National Series, Cup drivers are still running and winning with the vast majority of Xfinity Series races through 2015. Starting with this 2015 season finale, NASCAR began to add additional restrictions in regards to Cup drivers running Xfinity races. Beginning in 2020, Cup drivers with more than 3 years of experience in the top series were limited to only 5 races per season.
Wow, that's mean.
Yeah, crack down on that idea. Furthermore, those same drivers are ineligible to run in the regular season finale, NXS playoff races, or the Dash for Cash races. And of course, the last bracket is known as the Craftsman Truck Series. NASCAR's Craftsman Truck Series features modified pickup trucks in one of 3 national divisions. Together with the Xfinity and the Cup Series, the most recent series champion was Ben Rhodes in 2023. In 1994, NASCAR announced the formation of the Super Cup Series presented by Craftsman. The first series followed in 1995, and in 1996 the series was renamed the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series to emphasize Craftsman's involvement. The series was first considered something of an oddity or senior tour for NASCAR drivers, but eventually grew in popularity and has seen drivers move straight to the Cup Series without running a full season in the Xfinity competition. These include Kurt Busch and Carl Edwards, David's favorite, who both ran for Roush Racing. In addition, veteran drivers who have only had moderate success at the other 2 levels have revitalized their careers with the Truck Series, including Ron Hornaday, Todd Bodine, Mike Skinner, and Johnny Benson. Beginning in 2009, the series began the Camping World Truck Series, and in 2019, per a branding request made by Camping World, the series is rebranded as the NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series. As noted previously, the chase format was extended to the Truck Series in 2016. The format is identical to that used in the Xfinity, except that only 8 drivers qualify for the chase instead of 12, and only 2 drivers are eliminated at the end of each preliminary round instead of 4. And as in the Cup Series, the Xfinity, 4 drivers are eligible for the series that enter that final race. Similar to the Cup in 2017, the Chase moniker was dropped and is now simply referred to as the Truck Series Playoffs. In May 8th, in 2018, NASCAR and Camping World announced that the Truck Series title sponsor would be moved to the Camping World subsidiary Gander Outdoors starting in 2019. Contract through 2022 was scheduled to continue as planned. The series was renamed again in 2020 to the Gander RV and Outdoor Truck Series before returning to Camping World Truck Series in 2021. It was announced that the original series sponsor, Craftsman, would return as the title sponsor beginning in 2023. Now, the ARCA Menard Series is a racing series that races at big touring series tracks and local racing series tracks. It's primarily Midwestern United States series. NASCAR acquired the series in 2018 after being privately owned for about 60 years.
Wow.
There is an international series based out of Canada with NASCAR racing that derives from old CASCAR Super Series founded in 1981 and then bought out by NASCAR in 2006. The new series has races through 6 of the Canada's provinces for a total of 13 events with TV coverage on TSN. Many drivers are content running in Canada, while others move up to bigger NASCAR races, including J.R. Fitzpatrick and D.J. Kennington. The cars are a bit different from the cars seen in America, being more akin to late model, though steel tube framed silhouette bodies powered by V8 engines are still the norm. They also have racing in Mexico, Western European series, and some of the regional racing series. Now, some of the things that also get kind of funny, I do remember back in the 60s and 70s, there were also certain laws and bylaws about what cars could be used in NASCAR races. One of the specifics that I do remember my dad talking to me much, my dad's a big NASCAR fan. Hi, Dad. that certain cars, they could only race if a certain number of them were made for street use. And that if they made, I think it was like 3,000 of a certain car, then that car could be dropped onto a NASCAR track and raced with. One of the more famous ones, okay, this is going to show my fan base, Bill Elliott used to ride Ford Thunderbird for Belling Oil and Coors. And he had a family line that helped him work on these cars, and they could just flat out light it up. He wound up setting one of the speed records. I think it was at Daytona, before they did something what's known as restrictor plate racing. He set a speed record in qualifying that will probably never be topped because of the restrictor plate rules. I think it was like over 218 miles an hour.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's like faster than some aircraft. But as things were going, they'd have accidents. Cars would come off the courses sometimes killing drivers. They finally decided that too much speed wasn't going to be beneficial, and so they started coming up with the idea of putting a restrictor plate, which basically cuts off some of the oxygen to the engine. Thusly, your cars, they'll still go fast, but they won't go near what they used to. But as the races have gone along, now we have the sport as it is. There are some things that people don't like. For example, some of the more popular racetracks got closed up. But I did see that they also brought some back, like the old North Wilkesboro course got used last year, which I thought was kind of cool. And of course, they now have races in all sorts of states. They have races in California. They have races in Las Vegas. They had a street race in Chicago, which I just can't imagine that was, the tight little turns and stuff like that. I always thought up here, if you get a chance to look at some of our videos, there's one that I could just imagine them trying to go through the pigtail bridges.
Right.
Why is that car wrapped around that tree? Well, you see, he didn't take the turn very sharply. But, as technology gets better, this car of tomorrow, I've heard a lot of people hate it. A lot of people like it. The big thing is that they tried to, make a car that was going to be safe, practical, and basically everybody was going to be using the same type car, which to me kind of defeats the purpose of having, individual drivers, individual crews.
But also, doesn't it kind of like level the playing field if they're all in similar make models? And
that too.
Then it's more like skill rather than, ooh, my Ford went better, faster than your Chevy because my Fords are better than Chevys. I know that those don't race, but that's an example.
Oh, I like my Fords. Of course, then they talk about some of the more popular drivers back in the 80s. You had Bill Elliott, you had Dale Earnhardt, you had Petty, Cale Yarborough, I should say. There were a lot of racers, and some, they basically raced on skill, sometimes a little luck. I remember one time, I think it was Petty actually won a race in third gear because he'd gotten in an accident and he just had to milk it around the course while the other guy had crashed out. And some of those stories are just, it's amazing that some of these guys survived. Of course, then there was also stories of guys that completely left the racetrack and wound up outside the course. You're like going, oh, that would be a really horrifying way to go out in your race. But folks, this has been the, like I said, the anniversary of the founding of NASCAR. 76 years. Happy birthday. You folks have a good one. This has been the Bearded Historian, and we'll see you next week.
Good night.